Hello my Archeage friends, this is Arid. In-game name is September on the Nui, the Thunderwing, as well as the public test server. In this video what we're going to do is take a look at mining for gold or Apex. We're going to take a look at two miners, the tale of two miners. One is on the Ezi server and one is on the Retribution server, that is Fresh Start and Legacy. What we're going to find out is how much gold I'm making per day and the silver to labor ratios of that. It's actually been quite a while since I've covered anything about mining, but given the recent shakeup of pretty much every profession, I thought it would be time to go back to the basics and just see how good mining is, or is it bad? I don't know. Mining is actually a pretty simple task, but here is a quick version of what mining is all about. What you do is you go out and you find stone piles, you mine them, base labor is 10, and they will always give you only stone. Then there is a small chance for that node to proc to fortune. When it does, you'll notice a small explosion on the stone pile if it's going to proc. Then the fortune vein will spawn, and this is where you get all the metals and gems, and that is actually what you really want. Unfortunately, to get them to spawn, you do have to mine those stone piles. The fortune veins take 20 labor to mine, and they can drop copper, silver, gold, archeum ore, and they can even give you out pure nuggets, which is equal to 9 of those base ores. Those pure nuggets also are used in some title quests, so they actually may be worth slightly more than their 9 base units. However, for my calculations, what I did is I simply broke them down by right-clicking on them to obtain the ore, and then I added in my totals. So that is basically mining in a nutshell. There's actually another stage of mining which is called the unidentified ore nodes. Those proc work just like the fortune veins. After you mine, there is a chance that they'll trigger the unidentified vein off the fortune veins. Those nodes are 50 base labor to mine, and they do require you to be max level mining 230k with the title Soul Basalty. However, I should point out, since you're already at max level mining, you're going to get some labor reduction. The 50 labor is the base labor it takes to mine the node, but if you have 230k, you get a 40% reduction, which means you only spend 30 labor to mine each node. Mining these nodes will produce what we call unidentified ore pouches. There are 3 types: clear, vivid, and lucid. The clear pouches drop about 60% of the time. The vivid, or the tier 2 pouch, will drop about 25% of the time, and the lucid pouch, the rarest of them all, will drop about 15% of the time. To open these, you'll need an ore sorter crafted via handicraft, and that requires 3 copper ingots and 1 piece of lumber. We'll cover those later in this video and determine if they are in fact worth opening. So that's pretty much all there is to mining. I have found that for efficiency reasons, there are some things that you can do to help yourself. And the first one being create a campfire and roast some trimmed meats. I'll show you that here in game. What you're going to need is a basic campfire. You can purchase that from the general vendor. 2 logs, raw logs, and you can put those and light the fire, and then you can add 9 trimmed meats. This will give you a 10% boost to the mining speed. You'll also find that getting a set of Dawn's Drop gloves at level 50 is a huge boost to your speed. Additionally, you can get the buff from the Hero Hall by praying to the statue. That adds 5% speed, along with the Vocation Expertise tonics, which are usually pretty cheap. That will give you another 10% speed boost. It should also be noted that the higher your mining skill, the faster that you go, just like all the other professions. Finally, there's another item you can purchase, which is a plushy pet, and then you can stick a pacifier in its mouth, also bought from the marketplace. That will give you a 5% mining speed boost. There also has been events in the past which give you production speed boost, though I haven't seen any of those type of items yet on the Fresh Start. But keep an eye out, because the faster you can mine, the less time that you're going to take, and that also means the less chances that somebody can come along and gank your node. Okay, so now that you know how mining works and what sort of boost you can find, you may be asking yourself, well, how profitable is mining? Well, that really depends on your server and your region. So what I'm going to do is we're going to take a look at 2 miners and see how both of both of those guys did in their last 2 sessions. First, let's take a look at my miner on the EZI server. That's the Fresh Start EU. Ideally, you would want to log in at least once a day to get your loyalty points and then mine out your labor. However, for this video, what I did is I waited until I was labor capped and then went all at it. On July 30th, I spent my labor cap, which is 5,000 labors, and it took me 32 minutes. And actually, if you want to be technical about it, because I did spend 32 minutes, I spent a little more than 5,000 labor, because I would have regened about 60 labor while I was mining. However, for the calculations, I'm just going to use 5,000 labor as the number. So what I got was 1,736 stone, 812 iron, 57 copper, 43 silver, 15 gold, and 1 archeum ore. I totaled that all up with the current prices, and that would net me 132 gold. That would give me a silver to labor ratio as a fresh start of 2 silver, 63 copper per labor point. That is pretty horrible. There's actually a couple things going against this guy. One, he had a low labor skill or low proficiency skill of 65k, which meant he was only getting a 10% labor reduction while he mined. Additionally, the drops from the Fortuna Veins were pretty awful. Now, if we look at his next session, the next 5,000 labor points, over here on the right, I actually was up to 70k mining, which bumped my labor discount down to 15%. And that meant I also got more nodes, and my drops from the Fortuna Veins were actually pretty good, shown exactly here with the amount of archeum ore I got, which was 18. That's 18 out of 5,000 labor. All that said, this session turned out to be pretty respectable, giving me 5 silver, 20 copper per labor point. It actually did take me slightly longer to spend my labor because I was, again, saving a little bit more per node that I mined. That went from 35 minutes up from the 32 minutes in my previous session. Also, I want to point out that this is the Fresh Start server where Apex is only about 800-ish, give or take, at this time of the video, which means that if I did 6 sessions just like this each month on this character, I could buy 2 Apex. That would leave me 9 other sessions. If you consider, every 2 days a session, that would give me 9 other sessions in which that everything that I make is pure profit. Okay, so now let's take a look at my character on the Legacy server, Retribution. My guy here is actually max mining 230k, which means he gets a 40% discount in labor per node, which means that you'll get far more nodes in the same amount of labor. Just like my character on the EZI server, this guy did 2 sessions, labor capped at 5,000 labor, and this is the results. So the first session, he was able to achieve a 5 silver and 16 copper per labor point. The second session, he got about the same, 5 silver, 56 copper per labor point. You can look at the numbers here. The spreadsheet will be available in the video description. Now this character, because of his speed, and even though he had more nodes to mine, he was able to do all this mining in 30 minutes or less to burn all of his labor. Now, although this character is max mining, and I could have mined the unidentified ore nodes, he only stuck to the stone piles and the Fortuna Veins for reasons that will become apparent as we get to the unidentified veins here in a minute. The difference for this character is the price of Apex on this region. So on the Retribution server right now, you're looking at about 1,600 gold per Apex, which means to get my patron time paid for in a month, I would have to dedicate basically 12 sessions or 24 days worth of labor to mining alone. This would basically leave me only 3 sessions for a profit in a month's time. It is also prudent to note that due to the recent Apex sale, the price of Apex is actually slightly lower than normal. Okay, so before we cover this unidentified stuff, there is actually a couple things about mining that you should be aware of. First, there are some non-typical places to mine, And what I'm thinking about here is like the nodes in the Exeloch Cave by Serpentis. These areas spawn straight up copper, silver, gold, and archeum, as well as gem nodes, along with the Anya ingot or Anya pebbles, which turn into the Anya ingot. Those spawn straight up, meaning that you don't have to go through the stone piles to get them. However, this area does require you to break down, or somebody does have to break down the cave walls, not only to get access to the nodes, but to get the nodes to spawn. This actually does take a fair bit of labor to knock down those walls, and once again, the nodes will not spawn if the wall is up. So although you can log off in the cave, you still have to knock down the wall to get those nodes to spawn. The nodes do actually start spawning pretty quickly after the wall is down, and in true Archeage fashion, they are random as to which ones spawn. They do have a fairly long respawn timer, like 20 minutes or so. I really haven't counted. And they are in a hostile zone, which means alts are pretty much cannon fodder if anybody with any gear score happens to walk in on you. I actually wasn't able to collect much data here, as this area is always highly contested on the two servers in which I play, or which I have the miners, I should say, and it really isn't worth my time or my trouble. However, given the price of copper and archeum, it may be worth the trouble to some of you. There is another area that I need to mention, and that is for the Starshard ore. This zone is located off the coast of Cinderstone Moor. That's on the Nui side, west side, and it is located in the lava flow. It is actually underwater, which means you'll need to bring a breathing device. Ideally, I would suggest the Dahuda's bubble potions. Now, Starshard ore is pretty volatile in pricing. It is used both in handicraft for crafting instruments and jewelry, as well as machining for ship components like cannons. There are a few other items that use this stuff, like artistry for decoration, that kind of stuff thrown in. It is not something that I personally have ever mined. I don't think I've spent more than a little bit of labor there. But I will link another video from like 4 years ago which details this process for those that want to learn more, and quite honestly, nothing has changed since then. Finally, before I go, I want to talk about those unidentified veins and those ore pouches you can get from them. As I detailed earlier, the unidentified ore vein is a random proc from the Fortuna Viens, and you'll have to have max level to mine them. Those who do mining occasionally probably have seen people just hanging around, most notably on the Fresh Start servers, waiting for those nodes to proc, and there is actually good reason for this. The value of those ore pouches and veins in general is pretty good for anybody on the Fresh Start servers. That is because the archeum ore and gems demand high prices, and those pouches are well worth it on those servers. I don't personally have a character on the Fresh Start server yet that can mine them, but I do have some numbers from the last time I covered these, and we'll use those to test this information. In such case, I can use my data from before, plug in the numbers from the Fresh Start auction house, and we can see what we can get. Now, the data I had from before was what I was doing. I was testing what is inside the ore pouches as well as the drop ratios. To that end, what I did is I mined 100 of the unidentified nodes to get 100 of these pouches. What I got was 62 clear pouches, 23 vivid pouches, and 15 lucid pouches, which, as I said at the beginning of this video, that gives us a 60% chance for the clear, 25% chance for the vivid, and a 15% chance for the lucid. To open these things up, you're going to need an ore sorter, which now costs 3 copper ingots and 1 lumber to craft. It used to be 1 copper ingot, FYI. The labor cost to open the clear is 15, the vivid is 20, and the lucid is 30. There is no way to reduce that labor cost. It's straight up a straight up labor cost. Now, given the price of copper ore on all the servers, that makes those ore sorters like 11.5 gold each in material cost alone, and depending if you're on the Fresh Start or the Legacy server, it may or may not be worth it. So let's take a look. Okay, once again, we're using data from my old spreadsheet. I just plugged in the drops and the current values on the legacy and the fresh start EU servers, and this is what I found. So the first half of this spreadsheet in the blue server is the fresh start, and on the right, the white stuff is on the legacy server. Now the clear pouch on the fresh start server, which the value of which is driven purely by the Archeage ore at 6 gold per unit, that will give us a silver to labor ratio on the fresh start server of 32 silver per labor point. That is counting both the 30 labor to mine the node and the 15 labor to identify the pouch, along with the cost of the ore sorter. However, those same pouches on the legacy server, given that the value of the Archeage ore is only like 1 gold, that means you're actually losing money simply by opening these up. If you total up all the value of everything I would have got out of this, that's 312 gold. But the ore sorters alone is going to cost 1,716 gold. That means, no, don't open them. Okay, so how about those vivid pouches? Well, these pouches fare even better on the fresh start server given the value of the gems, most notably the emeralds that come out of them. The total value of these 23 pouches on the fresh start server was 831 gold. After labor and the ore sorter cost, that nets us 562 gold with a whopping 57 silver per labor point. Pretty good. However, the tail is about the same as before for those on the legacy servers because the gems almost have no value. Once again, you'll be losing gold simply by opening them, let alone the labor that you spend. Finally, let's take a look at the Lucid pouches. When I plug in the values from the EU Fresh Start server, we get a total from these 15 pouches of 880 gold. Again, I'm going to adjust for the ore sorter and factor in the labor cost, and these pouches are quite amazing, providing 1 gold and 5 silver per labor point on the fresh start. Now, if we chug over here to the EU Legacy server, we actually finally start to see some profit, and actually a pretty good one, driven by the rare jewel, which is just a vendor item, as well as the value of the diamonds. Here on the Legacy server, you can actually turn a profit on these pouches, which amounts to about 42 silver per labor point. However, one should note that these Lucid pouches have the lowest drop rate. 85% of the time when you mine an unidentified node, you're going to get a clear or vivid pouch, so take that into factor if you decide to mine those veins on the Legacy server, of course. Now, I personally don't bother mining them, but you may want to if your goal is to burn labor much more quickly because, 30 labor per node. You also can probably save these clear and vivid pouches and just hope XL grows a brain and eventually will adjust the copper ingots required, or actually remove the need for the copper ingots to craft the ore sorter altogether. Well, that is pretty much the tale of 2 miners, one on the Fresh Start server and one on the Legacy EU servers. I hope that you have all found this information both helpful and informative, because that is my goal. I don't actually have an outro video that I like, so I'm just going to say this here. I want to thank all my current Patreons. That's Umu Khan Onal, Counter the Meta, as well as Cornelius, for your continued support. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Also, my Twitch subs, which I'm going to show here. There's just a lot of them, so I can't list them all, but thank you very much. And finally, also, I would like to thank my direct donors in order of donations. Riot Devil Mac, aka Macatelli, Ascendra, Eldern, Wickenvape, aka Hammer, Jeffrey, Xerxes, Brass, Senadors, Kansas Guy, and Radix. And also, I would like to thank everybody that has thrown me some bits. I appreciate each and every one of those donations, no matter how small or how often. It actually does mean a lot. Also does the fact that you took the time to watch this video or you've taken the time to like and subscribe to my channel here on YouTube. Just knowing that I'm helping somebody keeps me going. Remember to join the fun every Friday on Twitch after Tryon's live stream. This week we have another $150 Archeum pack to give away. Thank you, Physical. Until next time, this is September saying, be well.